What's up, Libra? This is your reading for your solar eclipse in Libra, of course. Welcome. I hope everyone is doing well. Feel free to let me know how you're doing in the comments. This is your time to shine, Libra. This is your solar eclipse. And so we're going to get into some of the astrology of this eclipse and how it will be affecting you in particular, and then we'll get into the cards. So we have, of course, this eclipse happening in your first house of self. So if you see like any sort of like new or if you're experiencing, not seeing, if you're experiencing any new urge to kind of reinvent yourself, I would not be surprised. And I think it can be quite dramatic since we do have Lilith. If you're feeling a bit sexier, if you're feeling a bit more bold, I like it. I think you should go with it, especially if you're feeling a bit more bold when it comes to expressing yourself and your values and your wants and your needs in particular and what you want to let go of. You can see maybe some issues coming up with people like frenemies, is kind of what I get because Mercury is in your first house, and that not only makes you more vocal and, more of a person that wants to kind of mitigate or be the peacekeeper in a situation, but you can find that maybe some people that you feel like are allies or supposed to be allies are maybe working against you a bit because Mercury rules over not only just your 12th house, but it also rules over your ninth house. And so we see an emphasis on like what are the beliefs that you have, and not only yourself, but like of the other people around you. Are you creating distance with some people that you just don't jive with anymore? That's how I could see it. Are you trying to expand your inner circle? And through that, you're finding more of a spiritual connection with others rather than just kind of the more superficial one. We do have Saturn in Pisces in your sixth. Saturn is a planet that is very friendly towards you, Libra. And so when it's in Pisces in the sixth, it can be like really wanting to air out any sort of illusions of conflict. And so it wants to bring up the conflict to face it. And so I really love that for you, Libra. Don't shy away from the conflict that you might be seeing come up in certain relationships because I think it can really propel you forward. We have Venus being in your second house. And so it's definitely going to be about relationships and being very passionate about the values that you hold, as well as like what you want to invest in as far as like your time, your energy, resources, finances, things like that. I do think that we can see maybe a bit of extra spending coming up on things like crystals or like books or like, educational things or higher mind things, but definitely like maybe like even yoga or like something a bit more like a cult or just kind of like spiritual. I think those are the things that you might find yourself, be really spending more money on. But also, it can just be something very much like you're spending more money on second house things, very Taurus like things, such as like food, makeup, things like that. And it's something that you're like a little obsessed with at the time, which can create kind of like a different sense of self. I think for you in particular, since Venus is in your second house, a lot of the things that Venus in Scorpio is creating is kind of like this more serious, more cutting, sharper kind of perspective that is really transforming you internally and making other people see you in a very polarizing way. And people are going to either love it or hate it. And I think you shouldn't be afraid of that. It's just, it is what it is. It's not easy by any means. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that it kind of clears out and purges what is not needed. Just be very careful about going to extremes. Make sure that you're doing your Libra thing and balancing things. I do think you can also be somebody that might hear from the past as well, because this is a South Node eclipse. And so we can see like, the past kind of coming back to haunt us. It can also be a time where you're like, wow, look at how far I've come as far as like paying off credit cards. Or it can be a time where you're like, wow, I really want to revamp how I spend or how I budget. And maybe I need assistance from like a credit like fixing company, or like I need the help of like an accountant, somebody to advise me in that way. That can also come up as well. Let's get into the cards. I want to start out with the last card that I pulled, which is Judgment. And I kind of get like when I pulled this card, I got I heard the song Free Falling. I don't know who it's by, but it's like, I'm free, free falling. I'm sorry to subject you guys to my singing, but you know the song. If you know the song, you know the song. But like Free Falling, that song, I don't know who it's by, but that song came to mind when I got this card, and I feel like it's really talking about having to trust the process. It can be a time where it's just very intense, where you're very intense and the people around you are also very intense. It's just an intense time. I'm not surprised. The first house is one of the angular houses. And so it just changes a lot about how you see yourself and therefore how other people see you. And that can change, how authority figures see you, how a mother figure might see you. You might have somebody that's being a little bit extra smothery, especially in family matters. You can see maybe even when we look at such as like relationships, we talked about that already quite a bit, that there can be maybe some issues because you're changing. There is a bit of conflict when it comes to your relationships, especially at work. um, we can also see maybe like that also coming through in home life as well, and wanting to just kind of be in a more intuitive, like make action from a more intuitive space, and that might come with just needing some alone time to kind of think through things and just kind of close things out more internally first, and then it becomes more outward in your relationships. The Ace of Cups. I think there will be new relationships. If you lose relationships, I'd say don't worry about it. It's clearing the way for newer and better relationships that are really there to support you and will bring you the things that you are looking for. Don't be afraid to get out and be social. We have the Nine of Cups that's coming up next, and I think that's also again a nod to goal achievement, as well as we have the Star card. The Nine of Cups and the Star card really just give me goal achievement kind of things. Mars is in your 10th house right now, where we see it in Cancer. And so I think there will be ups and downs when it comes to career, maybe a little bit of clashing or just kind of really feeling the pressure. But I do think it's a really good pivotal time with Mars being in the 10th house, another house. And so you can find maybe authority figures being a little bit more, again, smothery. I don't know any better way to describe Mars and Cancer than like smother mother like energy. But you can find that you're maybe finding that some authority figures or mother figures being a bit more micromanagey. Don't let it roll off your back. Don't let it get to you. Just stay focused on the Star card. Stay focused on what are you trying to create? What are your goals? And the relationships and the support system that you need will show up. And speaking of that support system, I think it's definitely coming through with that King of Wands. Any kind of Leo energy, I think, is really helpful during this time. Leo and Sagittarius, in particular, I think is definitely what you want to look out for. But someone that brings in a lot of bravery, courageousness in the face of adversity is what I get. Don't be afraid to just free fall into, like, really standing up for what you want. Um, and I think that's really what all these cards are expressing. But other than that, Libra, that is your reading. Let me know if this was helpful, and I'd love to hear how you're doing during this eclipse. I'll see you in the next one.